We already told you about The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951, the political statement so dangerous the U.S. military refused to help. Now meet the remake nobody wanted.
Remaking films is a part of the Hollywood tradition. Personally, my favorite is the first remake.
The Day the Earth Stood Still, 2008, wasn't just another unnecessary remake. It was Hollywood's first carbon-neutral production about saving Earth that critics destroyed anyway. Keanu Reeves stopped blinking. Jaden Smith's performance became legendary for wrong reasons. Fox transmitted it to outer space. These are 16 facts about the remake that changed nothing. Deleted alternate ending. Had Klaatu survive? The DVD release included deleted scenes revealing an entirely different conclusion. One early alternate ending had Klaatu surviving Earth's judgment and choosing to remain among humans to observe them further. This version would have left the door open for sequels while providing a more hopeful resolution. Derrickson ultimately rejected this ending to preserve Klaatu's mysterious and godlike aura. The theatrical version shows Klaatu walking into the nanobot swarm, sacrificing his human form to stop Earth's destruction. His fate remains ambiguous. Did he die? Return to his people? Transform into something else? The mystery felt more powerful than definitive answers. Several deleted scenes also contained extended conversations between Klaatu and Helen, exploring philosophical themes. Conceived watching Keanu Reeves in Speed. In 1994, producer Erwin Stoff was sitting in his office at 20th Century Fox after producing the successful Keanu Reeves thriller, Speed. He glanced at a poster for the 1951 classic The Day the Earth Stood Still, hanging on the studio wall.
You know what? It'll never happen in a million years.
A single thought struck him. What if Keanu Reeves played Klaatu in a modern remake? The idea sat dormant for over a decade. By 2005, when screenwriter David Scarpa started drafting the script, studio head Thomas Rothman felt a responsibility to update the property for contemporary audiences. The connection between Speed and Standing still seemed almost too perfect. Hollywood loves those kinds of coincidences. Changed nuclear war to climate change, screenwriter David Scarpa faced a fundamental challenge. How do you remake a Cold War nuclear anxiety parable when the Cold War ended decades ago? His solution transformed the entire allegory. Instead of warning humanity against atomic weapons threatening galactic peace, Klaatu now arrived to judge environmental destruction. The specifics of how we now have the capability to destroy ourselves have changed, Scarpa explained. Hurricane Katrina's devastation in 2005 directly informed his perspective while writing. The original Klaatu wanted humanity to stop threatening each other. The remake's Klaatu didn't care if humans killed each other. He just wanted them to stop destroying Earth's biosphere. Scarpa even scrapped Klaatu's climactic speech because audiences today are unwilling to tolerate that. Hollywood's first carbon-neutral production, Fox, had established a corporate mandate: achieve carbon neutrality by 2011. The Day the Earth Stood Still became their first production to meet that standard. The irony was deliberate. Making an environmental disaster movie while creating an actual environmental disaster would have been embarrassing. The studio implemented unprecedented green protocols across every department. Concept art, location stills, and costume tests were posted on a private website instead of printed. Costumes were preserved for future Fox productions or donated to homeless shelters rather than discarded. Sets were constructed using lumber from sustainably managed forests. Recyclable materials and biodegradable products replaced standard film industry waste. The production even used hybrid vehicles throughout. Environmental responsibility became mandatory, not optional. 3-minute idle-free engine mandate. The most annoying green regulation? Fox's idle-free engine mandate. Any crew member sitting in a production vehicle for longer than 3 minutes had to shut off the engine completely. No exceptions. No idling while waiting for shots to set up. No keeping vehicles running during breaks, no exceptions for hot or cold weather. Drivers had orders to turn off ignition after exactly 180 seconds. The mandate applied to hundreds of vehicles across the massive production. Crew members grumbled constantly about restarting engines dozens of times daily, but Fox enforced it rigorously. The studio was committed to carbon neutrality regardless of crew convenience, saving the planet one irritating engine restart at a time. Keanu Reeves deliberately stopped blinking. Director Scott Derrickson wanted Klaatu to seem genuinely inhuman despite wearing human form. Reeves developed an unsettling technique. He stopped blinking during many scenes. Watch carefully throughout the film. Reeves holds his gaze for unnatural lengths without breaking eye contact or blinking. The effect creates subtle wrongness audiences can't quite identify. Humans blink unconsciously every few seconds. Reeves trained himself to suppress this reflex for extended takes.
He's denied access to world leaders.
Critics noticed. Kenneth Turan called Reeves the movie's greatest stone face since Buster Keaton. One reviewer suggested Reeves should devote himself to playing androids, less self-aware species of undead, stylish pieces of contemporary furniture. The performance divided audiences between brilliant restraint and wooden acting. Jaden Smith found character, opposite to his personality. Jaden Smith was cast as Jacob Benson, Helen's grieving stepson who becomes humanity's unlikely savior. Smith later admitted he found the role extremely difficult because Jacob felt opposite to his actual personality. The character was written as cold, distant, and hostile, a microcosm of how Klaatu perceives normal human behavior. Jacob's eventual reconciliation with Helen forces Klaatu to reconsider humanity's potential for change. Smith had previously met Reeves on the set of The Matrix sequels, which featured his mother Jada Pinkett Smith. That prior relationship didn't help. Smith struggled throughout production to embody a character fundamentally different from himself. The performance would haunt him for years. Kathy Bates had 2 weeks to film. Kathy Bates played Regina Jackson, the U.S. Secretary of Defense coordinating Earth's response to Klaatu's arrival. She had exactly 14 days to complete all her scenes due to scheduling conflicts with other projects. The compressed timeline meant Bates needed to understand Derrickson's vision instantly without extensive rehearsal. Her solution? She repeatedly asked Derrickson to physically act out her lines so she could directly comprehend his aims for her dialogue. The director became her live reference for tone, delivery, and intention. Bates would watch Derrickson perform, then replicate his interpretation with her own gravitas. Critics later called her performance frighteningly catastrophic. 2 weeks apparently wasn't enough preparation time. Real physics equations from university professors. The scene where Klaatu corrects Professor Barnhart's blackboard equations required authentic mathematics. Production hired Marco Peloso from the University of Minnesota and William Hiscock of Montana State University to write genuine general relativity equations in faint pencil marks across the blackboard. Then, Keanu Reeves and John Cleese traced over these real physics formulas in chalk during filming. The equations weren't random symbols or Hollywood nonsense. They were actual theoretical physics relating to space-time and gravity. Most audiences wouldn't recognize the difference, but the filmmakers wanted authenticity. Scientists watching the film could verify the mathematics was legitimate. It's a small detail demonstrating surprising commitment to realism in an otherwise heavily CGI-driven production. Nanobot effects required 6 months. Post-production. Gort's transformation from giant robot into swarms of microscopic nanobots represented the film's signature visual effect. The design team spent over 6 months in post-production creating the nanobot destruction sequences. Visual effects supervisor Jeffrey Oken explained Gort needed to feel terrifying because you cannot tell what he is thinking. The computer-generated robot stood 28 feet tall compared to the original's 7-foot 7-inch Lock Martin. Animators programmed Gort's surface to reflect light realistically. Motion capture sessions guided the performance. with an actor wearing weights on hands and feet to suggest massive power. The nanobot swarms were inspired by biblical locust plagues, although metal-eating insects trace back to Stephen Vincent Benet's 1933 poem, Metropolitan Nightmare. 6 months' work for cinema's digital locusts. Scrapped Klaatu's climactic speech. The original 1951 film concluded with Klaatu delivering a powerful warning speech about humanity's future. Screenwriter Scarpa deliberately eliminated this element from the remake. His reasoning: audiences today are unwilling to tolerate that. Modern viewers wouldn't accept being lectured by an alien about their failings. Instead, the remake shows, rather than tells. Gort's nanobot swarm demonstrates Klaatu's power, while Helen's pleas for Jacob's life prove humanity's capacity for love. The decision fundamentally changed the film's structure. Robert Wise's version ended with philosophical arguments. Derrickson's version ended with visual spectacle and emotional beats. Scarpa bet contemporary audiences needed action over articulation. Critics suggested maybe they needed both. Transmitted to Alpha Centauri. On opening day. In a publicity stunt matching the film's science fiction premise, Fox arranged to transmit the day the Earth stood still into deep space on opening day, December 12, 2008. The Deep Space Communications Network at Cape Canaveral broadcast the entire film toward Alpha Centauri, the closest star system to Earth at approximately 4.37 light-years distant. This made it the first motion picture intentionally beamed into space. Whether any extraterrestrial civilizations received or understood the transmission remains unknown. If aliens intercept the signal, they'll learn humanity makes movies, warning ourselves about environmental destruction while simultaneously destroying our environment. That should make quite an impression. Jaden Smith. Performance universally panned. Jaden Smith's portrayal of Jacob Benson became one of cinema's most criticized child performances. Roger Ebert wrote, "Young Jaden Smith is an appealing actor, but his character Jacob could use a good spanking, what with endangering the human race with a snit fit." IMDb reviews exploded with vitriol. One viewer called him a toxic blob, perhaps one of the worst actors in the history of Hollywood. Another stated he brilliantly manages to supplant Dakota Fanning in War of the Worlds and become the most utterly unbearable idiot brat I've ever seen in a movie. Multiple reviewers claim Smith's performance alone made the film almost unwatchable. The backlash became so intense that when discussing his later film After Earth, critics referenced The Day the Earth Stood Still as evidence of pattern. Critical disaster with C- cinema score. The Day the Earth Stood Still opened to devastating reviews. Rotten Tomatoes certified only 21% positive, with consensus reading. Heavy on special effects, but without a coherent story at its base, The Day the Earth Stood Still is subpar reimagining of the 1951 science fiction classic. Metacritic scored it 40 out of 100, indicating mixed or average reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave it a C- grade on an A+ to F scale. That's catastrophically low. C- suggests audiences felt actively disappointed and would not recommend the film to others. Critics complained about incoherent plotting, underdeveloped themes, rough characterization, and Kathy Bates's frighteningly catastrophic performance. Razzie nomination for Worst Remake. The 2009 Razzie Awards nominated The Day the Earth Stood Still for Worst Prequel, Remake, Ripoff, or Sequel. The film lost this dubious honor to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Think about that. Critics considered it among the year's worst remakes, but still not as bad as Nuking the Fridge with Indiana Jones. Jaden Smith did win Best Performance by a Younger Actor at the Saturn Awards, suggesting science fiction fans appreciated what mainstream critics despised. The film also received nominations for Best Visual Effects and Best Sound at various technical awards. good effects, terrible everything else appeared to be the consensus. Financial success. Despite terrible reviews, despite critical savaging and audience indifference, The Day the Earth Stood Still succeeded financially. It opened at number 1 with $30 million from 3,560 theaters. 12% came from IMAX screenings, the highest IMAX share yet for a two-dimensional title. The film stayed in the top 10 for 4 weeks, ultimately grossing $79 million domestically and $154 million internationally. Total worldwide, $233 million. On a production budget never officially disclosed but estimated around $80 million, the film returned profit. Fox's carbon-neutral gamble paid off monetarily, if not artistically. The DVD release dominated rentals for its first 2 weeks. Sometimes movies succeed despite being bad. Earth kept spinning regardless. They remade a masterpiece nobody asked them to remake, stopped engines after 3 minutes to save the planet, transmitted the finished film to Alpha Centauri, got destroyed by critics anyway, and Jaden Smith's performance became a cautionary tale about nepotism in casting. The Day the Earth Stood Still. 2008 proved you can be environmentally responsible and artistically terrible simultaneously. Subscribe for more remakes that should have stayed buried.